Welcome everybody and thank you guys for joining me again. My name is Wilky and we are here with season and scenario updates that we received this morning, at least this morning my time. Now I think this is an insanely good post and it's packed with information. However, I personally think there are only a few bits that are new and I have a couple of questions that have been raised when we're looking at that. Needless to say, let's jump right into that. If you want to take a look at this yourself, and I highly recommend you should take a look at this yourself, it's in the game news on their official Discord. Now, what I really like about this post is that they added these images, essentially roadmaps, which I think are really cool because you very quickly get a brief overview of things which are about to happen in the game. So, first things first, about scenarios. 1 or 2 scenarios essentially are going to be hitting the final phase very soon. At least for my server, it's going to be 5 days from making this video. So this is by the end of this week. Now, they mentioned that there is a September and October, we're going to be getting new scenarios. Now, if you take a look at this one here, the PvP scenario, Prism vs. Clash, is supposedly launching in September, and the new PvE scenario, which there is no name, is to be done. I assume this is probably what they're going to be talking about here in October, but this is just a speculation on my part. It also may mean that September and October is the new scenario for the Prism vs. Clash, which I'm not entirely sure if this is true, because that would mean that there is nothing to be done for PvE players until you actually get this one. But needless to say, this is just a speculation, which is why I said I think there should be some clarifications still happening at some point. Now, essentially, all of this really isn't news. The other cool thing is, additionally, a regular scenario that can be played all year round will be available in the future. I think this is cool as well, because that means they're gonna have sort of like a steady stream of like content in the back burner, or like as a backbone, if you will, and active or like changing scenarios slash seasons as you may know them from other games. Now, really, this is, as I said, really nothing new. Now, here's another little quick overview. They mentioned new survival mechanics. There might be heat bursts, there might be frost or something that you need to combat. There is a new map planned at some point. I assume it's going to be next year, but really this is just a guess. I haven't seen any information on that regard. New dungeons, new enemies, new scenario durations, and new scenario sizes. So I don't really think this is completely new, but I really like the way they portrayed this information. For the first, and I think most important part for me, is in the final phase of your current scenario, you can sign up for a new scenario and start a new journey right away. Now, this is pretty good news, or pretty important news, I think, because my server is going to hit the final phase in 5 days from now on. So by the end of the week, at least if this post is correct and this is how I understood this, I can immediately jump into a new scenario on a new server, or on a different server rather. Now my question is, can I jump on servers that already have progressed their own scenario in a different aspect, or like in a different timeline? Because there are servers that are like in phase 3 right now, my server is in phase 5. So would I, for example, be able to jump into a server that is in phase 3 and just immediately collect all the rewards that have amassed until that point? Now, like I said, this is speculation, but I think this is also important, because what this means is you can only change scenarios slash servers if you are in the final phase. So if you're joining a new scenario and that scenario just started that specific day, you have another 6 weeks of which, or after which, you will be able to choose a new scenario again. I think this is very important to know, because this may lead to some people either locking themselves out from playing new content if it arrives, or maybe locking themselves out for playing with friends. So I really would like clarification on this, and maybe see some form of like remedies or like fallback option. For example, if you want to leave the season halfway through or something, that there may be options for this. Now, if you do not switch, you have up to 4 weeks, so you can finish achievements, map exploration. I think this is really cool. And even if you do not choose a new server, you will not be wiped. You will be sent to Eternal Land, so everything is in there. Once you decide to hop into a new server slash new scenario, you can just do that. I think this is pretty good news, but I would really like to know what this entails, and I'll be coming up with a second question in a bit, because I think this is very important. Now, when a scenario is over, does that mean I will lose my in-game progress? The short answer is no, most of it will persist. The few things that aren't persistent aren't really that grave as people make them to be, They're trying their best to more and more give us information of what actually is going to be staying and what isn't. Now, a character won't be deleted. I think that is probably one of the most important part. Star Chromes, Christians, Mitsuko's Mark, Silver Keys, and Battle Pass progress is staying. I think this is really cool. Blueprints, fragments, weapon accessories, mods, food recipes, I think this is a new one, will stay. And now they mentioned other important in-game progress resources of your character will forever be retained. Now, I'm really not happy with this formulation, because what does other important in-game progress resources mean? Is this acid? Is this tungsten? Is this any tool? Or, like, I don't really know what exactly to understand under this other important in-game progress, because I think everybody defines progress in a different way, and depending on your playstyle, you may need acid, you may need tungsten, you may need gunpowder, you may need medical. I don't really think that this is a great way to put it, so I really hope there's going to be more clarification on this. Blueprints for houses, formulas, and stuff like that will persist. Obviously, if you go into a new server and you do not have the materials, then you cannot just dump your brick house there and it's going to be there. So I guess that makes sense, though. But you can rebuild it part by part once you get the materials, which I think is really good. Another little infographic, I think this is really cool. Choose a server, play the scenario. We're currently here. And in 5 days, we will be here, where we can either choose to not sign up for a scenario and stay on our server, or sign up for a new scenario and play on a new server. So I'm really curious how this plays out and what this entails. Regular resources, materials, medicine, ammo, stuff like that, will be transferred into your Eternal Land box. And then items highly associated with scenarios and mimetic specialization cannot be transferred across scenarios. I think that makes sense, right? Because why would you be able to take something with you that A, doesn't have any place in the scenario, or maybe would allow you to supersede or, you know, skip certain things? So, yeah, I think that makes total sense, but I think it's really good that this is written out. Now we have a detailed list in forms of images again. I think this is really cool. Characters and cosmetics will be scenario specific, but will be retained and you can use it at any time. So anything that is in this upper box here is available to you at any time. Material, Star Chromes, Christians, Mitsuko's Mark, Stellar Planetlas, Sproutlets, Lightforge Ingots. I'm not sure, this is probably a PvP resource, I don't know. Cosmetic tokens, colorful badges, and Battle Pass tokens, Silver Case Battle Pass, and more will always be there. Important in-game progress content. Now this is probably the thing that they mentioned up there. Gear blueprints and the ratings, we already knew that. Blueprint fragments, we already knew that. Weapon accessories, mods, including mod components. I'm not sure what mod components are. And food recipes. So here they mentioned this is the important in-game progress content, but up there they mentioned other important in-game progress content. So I'm not really sure, you know, if there is anything else other than this. I would just like clarification. Furniture formulas and stuff like that will be persisting, and seasonal items will persist. Now, retained for your character even after a scenario is over, a friend list. So even if you jump onto a different server, your friend list will be the same. Your task completion progress. For the main story tasks and side story tasks you've completed in the scenario, you can play the streamlined variant in a new season. So if you were to jump on the same scenario again, you can sort of like speed run, if you will, the same quest lines again. I don't know if the rewards are going to be the same, but it's going to be interesting. Event progress and materials. You can check them in the event screen. And I think this is important because that means you cannot just cheese and farm specific materials obtained from events more than once per scenario. I think this is good, but I'm not entirely sure what this entails. And my idea here is, imagine you join a new server or a different server after your scenario ends, and that server is already in phase 4. Will you be able to get the same seasonal goal stuff, as in extra star chromes, extra things, or not? I think this is highly important for a lot of people, because this is essentially what's gonna make or break builds and allows people to farm blueprints and upgrade the gear, or maybe try different builds. Now, these are items in this category retained in Eternal Land. This is the depot that we're talking about. Weapons and armor, regular resources, so essentially everything that you farm, collect, tungsten ore, or anything that you smelted in, the blue crystals, so platinum crystals, stuff like that. Deviations, I think this is a crucial part, because that means we will be able to select a few deviations to bring with us into a new scenario. as well as calibration blueprints. I think this is also very important. That means that you can technically farm calibrations for future guns and just, you know, take them with you whenever you need them in a new scenario. Energy links will be converted into astral sand. This is just a resource that you need to build stuff on Eternal End. And finally, this is content that you will not be able to take from scenario to scenario because they're specific to a scenario. This is map exploration progress. That makes sense. If it's a different map, why would you take exploration progress with you? Your character is going to be level 1. Scenario core gameplay items. These are chaotic courtesies. This is a PvP item. And steroids are PvE item to start the Prime Wars. You cannot just take them and just instantly start Prime Wars. And specialization items crafted using mimetic specialization. So these are probably items that may be specific to a scenario and or region. You will not be able to take them with you. But I think that goes without saying. So for the most part, you keep almost everything. The few things that you don't keep on your character are gonna be in your Eternal Land, and this is essentially the only thing that you really lose. So it's not a whole lot. It's essentially, I would rather not call this a wipe, but I think of it as like New Game Plus. I think this would be a much better term to describe the way, at least from what we have so far. I think calling it New Game Plus would be a much better choice or option to give people an idea how they plan to reset or what the research structure actually entails and how things are planned. And that is essentially it for my personal take, what I think is really important from this post. As I said, I highly recommend everybody read this for yourself, because there is quite a lot of information in there, but I don't want to blow this video up. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them down in the comment section below. If you have any answers to my questions, then of course feel free to give them to me, either via comment or on Discord or on X, or whatever your social media of choice is. Other than that, thank you all for being here, and I'll see you guys next time.